The buzz of my phone sliced through the quiet of my living room at 2:17 a.m. Britney. I almost choked on my beer. Haven't heard from her in years, not since she walked out, proclaiming I'd regret it. No? Now I own a damn house in cash. The text read, "Hey babe. Sparkle's feeling some seriously blocked energy. Offering distance Reiki healings. $50 for a full chakra alignment. Folded hands energy exchange only, of course. Winking face. Energy exchange. Right. That's what she called it now. Back then, it was, I need a new purse, babe, or my nails are looking tragic." I snorted, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. The audacity. The sheer, unadulterated gall of this woman. I screenshotted it, already knowing the boys would get a kick out of this in the group chat. This was too rich. Time to share this gem. Energy exchange, she'd called it. Jesus. It took me back, man. Back to that dive bar downtown, O'Malley's. Place smelled like stale beer and regret. But it was cheap. I was 25, grinding, working 2 jobs, chasing that someday money. Then she walked in. Britney. She was polished, like something out of a magazine. I was wearing a faded band t-shirt and jeans I'd probably slept in. But her eyes, they locked onto mine. That initial spark was undeniable. She laughed at my jokes, even the bad ones. Made me feel like I was the only guy in the room. Thing is, even then, there was this expectation. A subtle vibe that she deserved a certain level of treatment. I'm waiting for a man on my level. She said once, almost casually. Red flag? More like a goddamn Soviet parade. I was just too dumb to see it. Looking back, the red flags were practically waving a goddamn parade. Her Instagram was a curated highlight reel of designer bags, exotic vacations, paid for by someone, definitely not her, and perfectly posed selfies. Every post needed validation. Hundreds of likes and comments to fuel her ego. She always had to have the latest iPhone, the newest Gucci whatever. And me? I was clipping coupons and driving a '98 Civic with a questionable transmission. But I was working towards something. Remember that time she scoffed at my suggestion of going camping? Roughing it is for peasants, she said, all wide-eyed and dramatic. I should have walked out then. But, like a dumbass, I chalked it up to different personalities. Yeah, different personalities and different bank accounts. Hers always emptier than mine, despite doing way less. Then came the job offer. A startup wanted me crazy hours, potential for big bucks. But zero stability. My current gig was boring, but it paid the bills, had great benefits, and I could see myself retiring there. I was leaning towards the safe bet. Don't be an idiot, Mark. She'd said, rolling her eyes like I was some kind of simpleton. This is your chance to finally get on my level. That stung, not gonna lie. I took the stable job. I figured, long term. It was the smarter move. And honestly, a small part of me wanted to prove I could provide, even if it wasn't overnight riches. But every time she'd drop hints about needing a new this or that resentment would bubble up, like I was failing her, even though I was doing what I thought was best. It all came crashing down on a Tuesday. I got home late, exhausted from a double shift. She was sitting on the couch, perfectly made up, scrolling through Instagram. We need to talk, she said, her voice flat. I knew what was coming. I can't do this anymore, Mark. I'm not happy. I deserve someone who can give me the life I want. The classic lines. I didn't even argue. I was too tired. You're just not ambitious enough, she continued, twisting the knife. I'm waiting for a man on my level, and you're clearly not it. Then, the parting shot, delivered with the icy confidence only a woman who believes she's destined for greatness can muster. You'll regret losing me, Mark. You'll see. Yeah, about that. The first few months were rough. Not gonna lie, I missed her. The sex was good, and I was used to having someone around. But then, something shifted. That little voice in my head, the one that always second-guessed myself, started to quiet down. I threw myself into work, saved every penny, cut out the impulse buys, skipped the fancy vacations. I had a goal to buy a house outright in cash, to prove to myself, and maybe, just maybe, to her, that I wasn't some loser destined for mediocrity. It took years. Years of ramen noodles and overtime. Years of saying no to things I wanted. But finally, I did it. Signed the papers, walked into my own damn house, debt-free. It was the sweetest victory I'd ever tasted. I wanted to send her a picture, just to rub it in, but I resisted. That would have been petty. Almost. I'm not proud of it. But I did a little social media stalking over the years. Just occasional peeks, you know? Purely for research purposes, of course. What I saw wasn't pretty. The designer bags seemed to vanish, replaced by knockoffs. The exotic vacations became weekend trips to the nearest lake. There was a string of different guys, each one seemingly less on her level than the last. And the filters. Jesus, the filters got heavier and heavier. She tried to maintain the facade of a glamorous life, but the cracks were starting to show. The desperation for attention was palpable. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck. Part of me felt a little bad, but mostly I just felt vindicated. Like, yeah. Good luck finding that man on your level when you're pushing 40 and hawking crystals on Instagram. The energy exchange text started subtly. A general broadcast on her Instagram story, offering distance healings for those in need. DM for details. Sparkles, I chuckled, figuring it was just another way to grift. Then came the targeted messages. Hey Mark, how are you? Feeling drawn to your energy lately. Think you might have some blockages. Winking face, a quick chakra alignment could do wonders. Folded hands. The emojis were strong with this one, and the desperation was palpable. As time went on, the requests became more frequent, the spiritual justifications thinner, the suggested donations more specific. $50 for a chakra alignment became $75 for an intensive aura cleanse. The humor was wearing thin. It was just sad now. I finally showed the text to the guys during our weekly poker night. It started with laughter, then devolved into a slightly uncomfortable silence. Dude, Mike said, shaking his head. That's rough, man. Yeah, but it's also classic, added Dave. Remember that chick I dated in college? Always needed gas money to come see me, which conveniently always matched the price of a new bottle of vodka. Then the floodgates opened. Stories of flaky women, manipulative tactics, and the endless pressure to provide. We realized we'd all seen variations of this pattern. Though waiting for a man on my level, line suddenly felt less like a personal insult and more like a standard operating procedure. Like we'd all been playing the same rigged game, just with different players. It was eye-opening, to say the least. That night, fueled by cheap beer and a newfound sense of camaraderie, I went down the rabbit hole. YouTube, forums, websites I never knew existed. MGDOW, red pill, hypergamy, terms that were foreign to me just hours before now felt like they were describing my entire life. It was like someone had finally translated the language of female behavior. The waiting for a man on my level wasn't just Britney being a bitch. It was a fundamental aspect of female mate selection. The constant need for validation wasn't just insecurity, it was a strategy to maintain status and attract better options. I felt a mix of anger, resentment, and, honestly, a strange sense of relief. Like I'd been playing a game with rules I didn't understand, and someone had finally handed me the cheat sheet. Suddenly, past events snapped into sharp focus. That time she borrowed my credit card for a girl's night out and maxed it out? Not just a drunken mistake, a calculated move. The constant complaints about my friends, designed to isolate me from my support system? A classic control tactic. The nice girl facade crumbled. I saw her now not as a misguided romantic partner, but as a strategic player in a game I didn't even know I was playing. The gaslighting, the subtle manipulations, the constant shifting of goalposts, it all made sense. I even started questioning her tears during the breakup. Were they genuine sadness, or just a performance to secure sympathy and leave me feeling guilty? The thought made my blood run cold. I had been played, and played hard. I started adding it up. Dinners, gifts, vacations, clothes she borrowed and never returned, the maxed out credit card. The total was staggering. Thousands upon thousands of dollars, all flowing in one direction. It wasn't an investment, it was a donation, a tribute to her perceived value. And what did I get in return? A few fleeting moments of pleasure, a whole lot of stress, and a gaping hole in my bank account. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I had been so blinded by lust and the desire to please that I'd completely ignored the financial imbalance. I'd essentially subsidized her lifestyle while she looked down on me for not being on her level. The irony was almost too much to bear. The next time the energy exchange text arrived, I didn't even bother to read it. I blocked her number. On everything. Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp. Gone. It wasn't out of anger or spite. It was a business decision. I was cutting off a bad investment, ceasing all operations with a failing enterprise. The sense of liberation was immediate. No more guilt trips, no more manipulations. No more thinly veiled requests for cash. Just silence. The satisfaction of denying her access to my resources was almost intoxicating. I had finally learned to play the game, and I was no longer a willing participant in her little charade. It was my turn to control the narrative. Word travels fast, especially in the age of social media. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Britney was having a tough time. The Reiki business wasn't exactly booming. Her reputation as a gold digger, their words, not mine. Okay. Maybe mine too preceded her. She bounced from job to job, each one less glamorous than the last. The man on her level never materialized. And the Instagram feed, once a carefully curated highlight reel, became a desperate cry for attention, filled with increasingly bizarre spiritual pronouncements and thinly veiled complaints about the unfairness of life. It wasn't revenge, it was simply the natural consequence of her choices. She had prioritized status and fleeting pleasures over substance and genuine connection, and now she was paying the price. Karma, as they say, is a bitch. With Britney firmly in the rearview mirror, I started focusing on myself. I hit the gym, picked up new hobbies, reconnected with old friends. I traveled, invested in my career, and generally enjoyed the freedom of being a single man with no obligations. I even started dating again, but with a completely different mindset. No more chasing. No more trying to impress. I was upfront about what I wanted: companionship, fun, and zero drama. If they didn't like it, there was the door. It was surprisingly effective. I met some great women, had some great experiences, and learned to appreciate my own company even more. The pressure to conform to societal expectations of relationships vanished. I was finally living life on my own terms. So here I am, 39, single, owning a house in cash. And Britney, 38, single, selling Reiki readings to stay afloat. Irony, thy name is Britney. The whole waiting for a man on my level thing cracks me up now. What level is that exactly? Is there some cosmic ladder of male worthiness that I wasn't aware of? And if so, what are the qualifications? Designer clothes? A fancy car? A willingness to subsidize her lifestyle? Because if that's the criteria, then I guess I'm permanently stuck on the broke and ambitious rung. And honestly, I'm perfectly fine with that. At least I own my own damn ladder. So, the moral of the story? Don't chase women. Chase success. Build your own empire. Become the kind of man that they wait for. And if they come crawling back years later, begging for energy exchanges, just remember, you're not an ATM. You're a goddamn fortress. Women will say a lot of things. You'll regret losing me. I'm waiting for a man on my level. But actions speak louder than words. And Britney's actions are now screaming desperation from the rooftops. Learn from my mistakes, gents. Protect your wallets, protect your hearts, and never, ever underestimate the power of self-reliance. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a poker game to win, and I'm pretty sure none of these guys are offering Reiki readings as collateral.